All right. Today I am in the offices of
John Schwartz and Steve Iskey.
All right, so we've got John and Steve here, and John on the, let's see, what is that going to be to the viewer? John, you're going to be on the right to the viewer. So, of course, it's reversed there in the little video frame we got there. So, what do you do exactly, John? What's your title?
So I am a principal software design engineer here in the Windows Security Group, and I am basically the design and implementation owner of user account control.
Okay. So I mean, I work for Microsoft, and the titles still kind of confuse me. What does that mean exactly? Like, what are your responsibilities? What kind of stuff do you do?
So basically, just means that I'm sort of responsible for the architecture, the design, in this case of UAC at a broader scope.
Okay.
And just because of the way sort of the juggling of headcount and whatnot worked out, I also ended up being responsible for the implementation and various other bits and pieces.
Cool. So 2 jobs, 1 check.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice.
We consider that shareholder value. So it's yeah, it's all about cost savings.
Great. And we move on over here. So Steve, what do you do exactly?
I'm a lead program manager on in application security UAC.
Okay.
Lead program manager at Microsoft it's a little hard to figure out, but basically we own some level of the how do we communicate it to the world, how do we drive the product forward. We're in charge of making sure test, dev, deliver on the schedule, and that all the features that our customers are looking for get hit. So we're much more of a customer-side interface.
Okay.
A little bit of the design, but also reaching out to all the people inside Microsoft as they hit UAC bugs. We try to be a first line of defense to make sure that John keeps fixing bugs rather than answering silly questions.
So then, to some extent, you're like a liaison between the public and the devs. Like you keep a watch on what's going on, and you make sure that. Okay. So let's talk about UAC then for a minute. Either one you want to take the reins and just explain first, from a high level, just what exactly UAC is?
So UAC is a lot of things, but the primary thing that we're trying to get across is that there's lots of ways to fix the security problems in Windows.
Okay.
In XP, most users in the home, like 99% plus, run as administrator, and that's because the apps simply don't work well.
Yeah.
We have to move Windows into a model where an exploit in Internet Explorer or in Messenger or in your favorite game cannot own the system. And it's simply too hard for our users today to keep control of their systems. I've got 2 kids at home, one 13, one 19, and we do a nuke and pave every 6 months where I have to wipe the machine because it's gotten away from us.
Yeah.
Right? And the intent of UAC is to start breaking that cycle, and that cycle has a lot of different aspects, one of which is can the applications work well as standard user? Another of which is, can I get everything I need to get done and have a good experience with Windows even though I'm not logged on as an administrator? But if you think about like running Internet Explorer or a game, it's silly that we have to have God privileges on the system to play that game. The game isn't doing anything, but we as coders have just over the years gotten used to having that full level of privilege. But our enterprise customers especially now are going from compliance issues to just cost of ownership. They're trying to get, for example, the finance department to run as standard user, and that's just super tough in the XP timeframe. You just have application after application, like roughly 50% of the applications that simply do not work well.
And is that because people I was a dev before I started doing this kind of stuff, and I still dev on my own time. So is it because we're just used to being able to go out and hit whatever folder on the computer we want and have access to whatever registry stuff?
Definitely part of it. I see a lot of it, sadly enough, right? It kind of dates back still to Win9X, right?
Okay.
Even Windows 3.1, Windows 95, Windows 98, where the whole model, right, for the operating system was it's one user, one machine,
right,
and the user owns the entire machine, right? And that was basically the model. And then when the NT model came out, you had Windows 2000, and then especially Windows XP. A lot of people, right? They had their Windows 9X code. They were still sim shipping for 9X and for XP. And hey, everybody on XP was running as administrator, so the code just worked, even though it was poking at, let's say program files, right, and self-modifying the app or per machine registry locations. And that was kind of never the intent with XP, right? The intent was that users would run as standard users, and then there would be, the administrator maybe one or more who'd be able to actually go and modify things machine-wide or cross-user. And just kind of because of this large app legacy, a lot of people ended up running XP as full-blown administrator. And because XP is so pervasive, right, new apps were written for it with the assumption that everybody was running as administrator. So it became this really nasty kind of self-feeding cycle, with the side effect now that every email attachment you open, that comes from Dad and is called funny.exe, has permission to wipe the entire box, depending on what it does. And right, we don't expect. I mean that sort of was not the original intent as far as XP and the security model was concerned. Yeah,
because we really had what you're saying then is devs, pretending that we were still living in a Windows 9X world, developing for a multi-user system, as kind of pretending that we were still in the single-user days.
Yeah, and well, and not even. I mean, I wouldn't even necessarily say pretending. I would just say we never kind of told devs that they needed to know that the world was kind of shifting and kind of changing, and we wanted things to go this route. Right, and I mean, to be honest, we're some of our own worst examples in this respect. Right, a lot of the games that Microsoft has pumped out over time require administrator. Windows itself on XP doesn't run very well as a standard user.
Let's go through like a simple example. You're making an app and you're trying to be a good developer and you're going to make a log file. Where do you put that log file?
//
or right where your app runs in program files. Both of those are admin operations. And just simple things like that don't take a lot to engage on to put that into a place that the standard user has access to, and suddenly your line of business app is working well as standard user, and our large IT customers have no problem deploying it.
Yeah.
Other things that go wrong, John has fixed multiple thousands of apps, put individual shims in, because we did a lot of things that would make it automatic. We took our app compat numbers in XP from roughly 50% to well over 90% automatically.
Nice.
With a couple of things that John and other members across Windows have put into the system.
How did you do that? Like with redirects or something? I mean, what were you doing exactly?
Yeah, so redirects are one method. So Windows ships with a pretty large app compat infrastructure, which basically kind of sticks a little shim layer in between the application and the operating system. And so we can basically do things, take an example, right, that actually both of you guys gave, right? You have an application that wants to create a log file, and it puts it in c:/whack log.txt. Right, well, we can sort of insert a little shim there, and during file creation, when we see that it's headed for cwhack log.txt, we sort of redirect that to the user profile. And the app is none the wiser, and everything just works with respect to the system, and then lo and behold, the application just works, and the user is happy.
Okay.
Which is always good.
Is that part of the functionality then of UAC, or is that something else that you've been working on?
That was, consider that the cost we had to pay in order to implement UAC.
I see. So you had to, in order for UAC to work, you had to make these other apps compatible.
Yeah, essentially
we have to jumpstart the system, otherwise everybody will go.
It'd be the most secure system that nobody ever ran. And because we're the ones who introduced the breaking change from a compatibility standpoint, it became our responsibility to take care of that. So there was a pretty hefty UAC app compat effort as well.
Well, let's talk about the breaking changes then, which essentially would comprise, I imagine, UAC. Can we talk about UAC from the top down and then talk about some of the technical details?
Sure.
So let's just start off with again, just what exactly is UAC? What does it entail? From what I'm gathering here, part of it is not running as administrator. That seems to be. It sounds like it's part methodology and part tech, right? So part conceptual, part implementation.
Correct.
Either one of you want to run away with that?
Yeah, we'll give it a whirl, I guess. So we actually divided it into, I guess, sort of multiple stages, right? And the first one was to make Windows itself really work well as a standard user. And that, if nothing else, right, was a tremendous benefit for our enterprise customers.
Yeah, this is your power management works. You don't have to elevate to change your power management. You don't have to.
Or your time zone if you're a laptop user. Okay. Then you can open the clock, which is something
really thought about that.
you can't do on XP as a standard user, right? It just won't even open to let you view it.
You can VPN as a standard user.
This is my wife.
It's all right. Niners love this kind of thing.
Let's put her on camera.
No, let's not. She won't be very happy.
Honey, you called into the radio station.
We've been married 3 months. I don't want to risk it just yet.